The Galactic Council's chamber buzzed with the low hum of alien voices, a symphony of languages and tones reverberating across the grand hall. Representatives from countless species filled the circular arena, their holographic projections shimmering like celestial ghosts. At the center of the room, a vast, transparent dais displayed a rotating hologram of Europa, a shimmering jewel of human engineering, now reduced to a fractured wasteland. Evelyn Grace, humanity's ambassador, stepped into the hall, her footsteps echoing with a determined cadence. Unlike the stoic facade she was known for, there was a storm in her gray eyes. Her movements were calculated but taut, as if restraining an overwhelming tide of emotion. The human delegation followed her silently, their expressions grim. Whispers followed her entry, some admiring humanity's meteoric rise in the galactic community, others murmuring skepticism over their right to be here at all. The council chair, Elder Yath of the Zytrex, gestured with an appendage resembling a crystalline vine. His ancient voice resonated with both authority and weariness. "Humans, your presence here is welcomed. We were just preparing to discuss the terms of your Ascension Treaty." "Why you attacked our home?" Evelyn's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. She stepped forward, interrupting the chair mid-sentence. The murmurs ceased immediately. Hundreds of eyes, compound and otherwise, turned toward her. Her words carried a weight that defied decorum. Elder Yath froze for a moment, his translucent body shimmering faintly in surprise. "Ambassador Grace, such accusations require—" "I am not accusing the council," Evelyn interjected, her voice trembling just enough to betray the simmering anger beneath. "But someone in this chamber knows who did it. Billions of lives lost. Entire families erased. And yet not a single species here has claimed responsibility or even offered condolences." The room descended into an uneasy silence. Representatives exchanged glances, some shocked, others defensive. A reptilian envoy from the Tabrak species flicked his forked tongue nervously. A bulbous, cephalopod-like delegate from the Ilthor clutched its translation device tighter. Even the ever-stoic Chernak's representative, General Vordak, shifted in his seat. Evelyn's hand rose, activating her console. The central hologram shifted, displaying grainy footage from human reconnaissance drones. The video played in silence, sleek, unidentified ships darting through Europa's atmosphere, raining fire upon the colony. No markings. No insignia. Just destruction. "This is what remains of our colony," Evelyn said, her voice steady but laden with grief. "Faceless ships. No distress signal answered. No warnings given. These attackers didn't just destroy infrastructure, they targeted evacuation vessels. They hunted our people. The ships in this footage, their design is unmistakably Krilthar." The name hung in the air like a dark omen. Elder Yath tilted his crystalline head, his voice now cautious. "The Krilthar have been extinct for millennia. Their ruins and relics are scattered across the galaxy, studied by all, replicated by none. Are you suggesting their technology has been revived?" "I am stating a fact," Evelyn replied, steel in her tone. "Our analysts identified Krotharian signatures in the energy emissions. Someone here has access to those relics and used them to destroy our colony. I want answers." The murmurs returned, louder this time. Delegates argued among themselves, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of indignation and confusion. Elder Yath raised a limb, restoring order. "Ambassador Grace, you must understand the gravity of your statement. You imply not only an attack on humanity but a violation of interstellar law concerning ancient relics. Do you have proof of culpability?" Evelyn's gaze swept across the chamber, pausing on General Vordak. The Chernak's representative's scaled face was unreadable, but there was a slight tightening of his jaw. She locked eyes with him for a moment before addressing the room. "Our investigations found records of recent Chernak's activities near Krilthar ruins. Reports from neutral traders confirm they were seen scavenging sites long abandoned by others. Add to that their aggressive expansion into neighboring sectors, and it paints a clear picture of motive and opportunity." The chamber erupted. General Vordak stood abruptly, his booming voice cutting through the noise. These are baseless accusations. The Chernax Empire has no need for scavenged relics. Our fleets are superior to anything the galaxy has ever seen. To suggest that we would stoop to such barbarity is an insult to our honor. Evelyn didn't flinch. Honor, General? Is it honorable to slaughter billions and hide behind ancient ruins? You may deny it, but your empire had the most to gain from Europa's fall. Resources, trade routes, and an opportunity to cripple a rising power. General Vordak hissed, his claws scraping against the metal table in front of him. If humanity wishes to accuse the Chernax, present evidence beyond speculation and hearsay. Otherwise, retract your words before this becomes an incident. Elder Yath intervened. Enough! Both sides will restrain themselves. Ambassador Grace, while your grief is understandable, the Council cannot act on conjecture alone. This footage, while troubling, does not identify the perpetrator. Evelyn stepped closer to the dais, her voice now a controlled simmer. Council Chair, we do not seek vengeance. We seek accountability. If the Council cannot protect its members from such atrocities, then humanity will be forced to act independently. The declaration sent a ripple through the assembly. Evelyn's meaning was clear. Humanity, young and underestimated, was prepared to defend itself by any means necessary. Elder Yath shifted uncomfortably. Ambassador, you tread a dangerous path. The Council exists to maintain peace. Peace, Evelyn said bitterly, requires justice. If justice is not found here, peace will be impossible for any of us. Her words hung in the air as the Council sat in uneasy silence. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the holographic display. Evelyn gestured toward the footage frozen mid-frame, a sleek, predatory ship firing into Europa's surface. Its design was unmistakable, its angular lines and dark sheen a haunting echo of Crotharian relics displayed in museums across the galaxy. This is not speculation, Evelyn began, her voice cutting through the tension. Human analysts confirm the energy emissions match Krothar technology. Their weapons haven't been seen operational in over 10,000 years, yet here they are, revived and used against us. Delegates from the Karath Confederation and Ilthar Accord exchanged uneasy glances. The name, Krothar, carried weight, evoking ancient wars that had nearly destroyed entire star systems. Though extinct, their technology was legendary, its remnants fiercely guarded by galactic law to prevent precisely this sort of catastrophe. A representative of the Nerix Dominion, a crystalline being whose voice resonated like chimes, finally broke the silence. Ambassador Grace, are you suggesting that one of us, members of this council, has violated the ancient prohibitions and weaponized Krothar relics? Evelyn's expression was steely. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating that someone used these ships to annihilate a human colony. The Krothar didn't rise from the dead to launch this attack. Someone here had the means, and someone here had the motive. General Vordak, the Chernax representative, leaned forward, his scaled hands gripping the edge of his console. You've said enough, Ambassador. Baseless accusations against the Chernax Empire are not only offensive but dangerous. Do not mistake restraint for weakness. Evelyn met his glare with unwavering resolve. The Chernax Empire has a history of expansion through brute force and subterfuge. Your fleets were spotted near Krothar ruins just months ago. Neutral observers confirmed Chernax ships in restricted zones. And now, ships bearing unmistakable Krothar designs obliterate Europa. Coincidence? I think not. Vordak's jaw tightened, his yellow eyes narrowing. If you wish to challenge the Chernax Empire, you will need more than the words of scavengers and traitors. That's rich. Evelyn shot back, her voice sharp. You've denied access to independent investigators, blocked probes near your claimed territories, and intimidated witnesses. If you have nothing to hide, why the secrecy? A murmur spread through the chamber as representatives whispered among themselves. The Chernax Empire's reputation for territorial aggression was well known, but Evelyn's accusations were a direct challenge to their integrity. Elder Yath raised a crystalline limb, his voice booming over the noise. Enough. This council will not descend into chaos. The murmurs subsided, but the tension remained palpable. Evelyn turned her attention back to the hologram, advancing the footage to its next critical point. The screen flickered, showing the Crotharian ships performing coordinated strikes, their movements too precise for an automated system. "Watch closely," Evelyn said, pointing to the subtle patterns in the ship's maneuvers. "This level of precision indicates deliberate control, not just some ancient AI system reactivating by chance. Someone piloted these ships, someone who understands Crotharian technology well enough to use it with deadly efficiency." An Insector delegate from the Vroth coalition clicked its mandibles nervously. "But who among us possesses such knowledge? The Krilthar's secrets have eluded us for millennia. Even their remnants are impossible to reverse engineer." Evelyn nodded. "Exactly. It takes more than just stumbling across an old ruin to resurrect technology like this. It requires expertise, resources, and a willingness to violate every interstellar treaty we've ever signed. The Chernaks had access to Krilthar ruins, and they had every incentive to strike at humanity. Your empire's expansion into the Sol sector would be unchallenged without Europa." Vordak's claws raked the console in front of him, leaving visible scratches. "We deny these baseless accusations. Present evidence that these ships belong to the Chernaks, or this conversation ends now." "I don't need to prove ownership," Evelyn said coldly. "I only need to show that you stood to benefit the most. Europa's destruction destabilizes humanity, weakens our position in this council, and gives you free reign over contested sectors." Another murmur swept through the chamber. Evelyn turned toward the council chair. "Elder Yath, I am asking the council to authorize a formal investigation into the Chernex Empire's activities near Krothar ruins. We need transparency, or this atrocity will not be the last." Yatha's crystalline form shimmered faintly, betraying his discomfort. "Such an investigation would require unanimous approval, Ambassador Grace. Without direct evidence linking the Chernaks to these attacks, I doubt this council will agree to such measures." "Then what is the council's purpose?" Evelyn countered. "To enforce treaties only when it's convenient? To look the other way when billions are slaughtered?" The tension was suffocating. Representatives whispered, calculated, weighed their alliances. A delegate from the Zyran Collective, a species known for its shrewd diplomacy, finally spoke. "Ambassador Grace raises valid concerns. If the Council cannot investigate, then what prevents further abuse of Krothar relics? Today it's Europa. Tomorrow, it could be any of us." The Chernak's representative hissed in frustration. "This is fearmongering. The Chernak's empire has always acted within the bounds of council law. And yet," Evelyn said, her voice razor-sharp, "you've refused every effort to verify that claim. You've hidden behind secrecy and intimidation while billions of human lives are gone without justice." The Zyran delegate nodded, their voice calm but firm. "Perhaps transparency would benefit us all, General Vordak. If your empire is innocent, as you claim, you should have nothing to fear from an investigation." Vordak snarled but said nothing. The room fell silent again, the weight of the moment hanging heavy. Evelyn's gaze swept across the assembly, her voice steady but resolute. "The council must decide. Either you stand for justice, or you allow this crime to go unanswered. Humanity will not forget which side you choose." Evelyn stepped back from the central dais, her gaze scanning the room. The silence in the chamber was deafening, a quiet acknowledgement of the weight behind her words. She inhaled deeply, her posture unyielding as she moved to deliver the next blow. "You believe humanity is still weak, clinging to the fringes of galactic relevance," she said, her voice firm but measured. "You think we came here today to plead for help or beg for scraps of justice. But let me make one thing clear, those days are over." Her hand moved to the console in front of her, and the hologram above the chamber flickered to life once more. This time, it displayed something entirely different, sleek, angular ships emerging from the dark void of space. The human fleet, experimental and terrifying, filled the projection. Their hulls glinted with an eerie sheen, reflecting light in a way that hinted at advanced cloaking capabilities. "These are our newest vessels," Evelyn continued. "Prototypes, yes, but fully operational. They are equipped with adaptive shielding, countermeasure systems capable of nullifying any known energy-based weapons, and autonomous navigation that rivals even your most advanced AIs. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Some delegates leaned closer to their consoles, scrutinizing the design of the human fleet. Others recoiled slightly, their unease visible even across their alien physiologies. The Chernak's representative, Vordak, stiffened in his seat, his claws twitching with barely concealed tension. "This is what we've been building while you dismissed us as insignificant," Evelyn said, her tone unwavering. "We didn't create these ships to expand, to conquer, or to dominate. We built them to protect what we've lost, what we can no longer afford to lose." The hologram shifted again, showing Europa as it had been before the attack. Lush domes of terraformed greenery, sprawling cities glimmering under artificial sunlight, families walking along crystalline walkways. Then the image shattered into chaos. Fire, debris, bodies scattered across ruined streets. Evelyn allowed the visuals to play out in silence for several seconds, letting the gravity of the devastation sink in. "This," she said finally, gesturing to the destruction, "is why we refuse to wait for bureaucracy or politics to catch up. Humanity will not let this happen again. And if that means taking matters into our own hands, so be it." The Chernak's representative slammed a clawed hand onto his console, his voice a harsh growl. "This is a threat. You dare to bring your weapons here and speak of justice? This is nothing more than intimidation." Evelyn turned to him, unflinching. "It's not a threat, General. It's a promise. If this council cannot act, humanity will. And let me remind you, we've spent centuries solving impossible problems. You think you know what we're capable of, but you don't. Not yet." Several murmurs broke out among the delegates. The Zyran Collective's representative raised a hand for attention. "Ambassador Grace, while your display is compelling, surely you understand the risks of unilateral action. Such a course could destabilize the entire council." Evelyn nodded, her expression softening slightly. "I do. That's why I'm here. Humanity has no interest in destabilizing this council or plunging the galaxy into chaos. But we can't ignore what happened to Europa, and we won't let it happen again. This is your chance to show us that this body stands for something more than words and tradition." A crystalline delegate from the Nerix Dominion spoke, their voice melodic but firm. "You have made your position clear, Ambassador, but this council has long maintained peace through balance and mutual respect. Introducing such a force into our political landscape could lead to consequences far beyond your intentions." Evelyn's lips pressed into a thin line. "I understand your concerns. But mutual respect requires accountability. If this council cannot protect its members, then what is its purpose? Europa wasn't just a human colony, it was a symbol of what we could achieve together. Its destruction is a warning, not just for us, but for everyone here." The room fell into a heavy silence again. The tension was palpable, the delegates weighing Evelyn's words against the potential fallout of her demands. Finally, Elder Yatha's crystalline form shimmered faintly as he spoke. "Ambassador Grace," he said, his tone carefully measured, "you tread a precarious path. The strength of this council lies in its unity, in the delicate balance we maintain among countless civilizations. A single act of defiance could unravel centuries of peace." Evelyn's gaze was unyielding as she replied, "And what peace is that, Elder? The kind where billions die in silence while the rest of the galaxy looks away? The kind where the guilty hide behind procedure and bureaucracy? That's not peace, it's complacency." The chamber erupted into murmurs once more, the tension boiling over into open debate. Some delegates called for caution, others for action. Evelyn remained silent, allowing the room to wrestle with the implications of her words. After several moments, she raised her hand, and the room fell silent again. "I didn't come here to threaten this council. I came here to ask one simple question. Do you stand for justice, or will you let silence be your answer? Humanity is watching. The galaxy is watching." Her words lingered in the air as she stepped back from the dais, her expression resolute. The council chamber, once filled with the hum of confident diplomacy, now felt like the eye of a storm. The council chamber sat in a stunned, uneasy silence, but Evelyn wasn't finished. She stood tall, her voice sharp as steel and steady as stone. "If there's no investigation, we'll assume the worst," she said plainly. "And the worst is that the Chernaks aren't acting alone." Delegates shifted uncomfortably, their movements betraying more than words could. The statement landed heavily, not just as a challenge to the Chernaks but as a warning to the entire council. Evelyn turned back to the central hologram and activated a new display. This time, it wasn't just the Krothar ruins or the ships that had destroyed Europa. Instead, it was an overlay of star systems, trade routes, and military mobilizations. "We found something while investigating Europa," she continued, pointing to patterns that became painfully clear as the projections rotated. "Unusual activity near Krothar ruins across multiple systems. The scavengers you dismissed as opportunists? They've been moving systematically, stripping key sites before anyone else can reach them. And the beneficiaries of this activity?" She paused, her voice dropping for effect. "They include several members of this council." The tension exploded into outbursts. Cries of indignation and denial echoed across the chamber, but Evelyn remained unfazed. She had expected this. The Zyran representative raised a hand to quiet the noise, addressing Evelyn with a cautious tone. "Ambassador Grace, are you suggesting collusion within this body? These are grave accusations that could dismantle the council itself." Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm presenting facts." She gestured, and the hologram zoomed in on specific trade networks and military logs. "Records show unusual shipments routed through neutral zones. Krothar relics, harvested and moved in secret. These artifacts weren't just taken, they were funneled to powerful players, some sitting here today." She let the weight of the evidence settle over the room. Delegates who had been vocal moments before now sat in silence, calculating their responses. General Vordak's claws dug into his console, his composure cracking under the scrutiny. "This is absurd," Vordak finally snarled. "If you accuse us, present proof. Otherwise, this is nothing more than human paranoia." Evelyn turned directly to him, her expression cold. "Proof?" She advanced the footage again, showing a Chernak's vessel docking at a Krothar ruin. "This was taken 3 months before Europa's fall. That's your ship, General. Your empire denied operating in this sector, yet here's your crew salvaging prohibited relics." The chamber erupted again, but this time the murmurs carried a tone of disbelief and anger, not just at the Chernaks but at the implication of broader corruption. Evelyn pressed on, her voice cutting through the noise. "This isn't just about Europa. It's about a system-wide conspiracy to control Krothar technology and weaponize it for personal gain. Humanity paid the price for your ambition. But we won't be the last unless this council takes action." A crystalline delegate from the Nerex Dominion rose, their chiming voice resonating with measured intensity. "If these accusations hold weight, they demand an immediate response. The Chernaks Empire must open its records for independent investigation." Vordak slammed his hand down again, his voice a snarl of defiance. "The Chernaks Empire does not answer to baseless slander. We demand an immediate cessation of these proceedings." "Baseless?" Evelyn shot back, her voice sharp. "Explain this, then." She activated another overlay, this time showing intercepted communications. The data streams projected across the chamber in unmistakable detail, encrypted messages between Chernak's officials and an unidentified faction within the council. The tone of the transmissions was clear: coercion, bargaining, and outright threats tied to Krothar's salvage operations. The room erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, some calling for immediate sanctions against the Chernaks, others demanding a broader investigation into council corruption. Elder Yatha's crystalline form dimmed slightly, a sign of his visible discomfort as he tried to restore order. "Enough!" Yath finally bellowed, his voice carrying an edge of desperation. "This council cannot operate under accusations alone. We require—" Evelyn cut him off. "You require proof? Then here it is." She activated the final piece of evidence, a direct connection between the stolen Krothar relics and the attack on Europa. Energy signatures from the Krothar vessels matched components traded through a black market network operated in part by Council factions. Europa was the testing ground, Evelyn said grimly. And humanity's tragedy was your cover. Whoever planned this thought no one would look beyond the surface. But we did. The room fell into a stunned silence. Even the Chernak's delegation had no immediate rebuttal. Evelyn took a step forward, her voice quieter but no less firm. Humanity isn't asking for vengeance. We're asking for accountability. Investigate the Chernaks. Investigate every member of this council involved in these black market dealings. Root out the corruption before it's too late. Yath finally spoke, his tone resigned. And if the council refuses? Evelyn's gaze swept across the room, her expression hard. Then humanity will ensure justice on our terms. And I promise you, we won't be the only ones standing against you. The room descended into uneasy murmurs, the delegates now faced with an impossible choice: protect their own interests and risk humanity's wrath, or expose the corruption that could fracture the council entirely. Evelyn stepped back from the dais, her message delivered, and waited for the galaxy's answer.